didn't know you could do that. Everything's with me. All right. Gotta do this one too. Well, welcome. Trying to get this together. So give me a second. I want to get into it, man. Guess we're gonna get it together. Good enough. Left-handed on him. All right. Guten morning. If you've never watched this show before, this is the Chocolate Mountain Show, and I welcome you. I am the holder of the continuous ball game that was created by the Hero Twins. I'm your galactic daddy-o, sitting on my galactic patio from Minnesota to the universe. And tonight's beverage is still Doppelbock Dunkel. So pop them if you got them, smoke them if you want them. Bottoms up. And of course, our sponsor is Drakkar, for the man who has nothing. I want to start tonight. Oh, PJ, what's happening? Reese, what's going on? Key, the one, definitely Aggie Pride. Hey, the one, I'm getting all this stuff on Facebook about Aggie chairs, Aggie seats. You see all that stuff? I guess it's at one of the restaurants or something. It's like Aggie everything. So that's interesting. Looks a little drained. I was outside busting some young boys' asses. The b-ball today was hot as fuck. It ain't hot up here. It rained up here. It's been in the 70s all day. So it's been mild. You see how I'm dressed? It's mild. It's very mild here. And it rained. And we need to rain. So no, I got a little bit of walking in, but not much as I normally do. So, I feel all right. I was kind of debating that I want to do this tonight, but why not? Why not? I came on for a little bit, but one reason why I wanted to come on tonight, and one reason why I didn't make any ball videos, is for the following reason. Is because, see, like, okay, we had a play at the end. It was a play at the end of the game. And at the end of the game, Giannis didn't take the ball out. He had 1 foot out. He had 1 foot in. But I've learned enough of this, of how this is fixed. And I saw that was on purpose. That they try to give us stuff to talk about too. See, when they fix games, it ain't enough that they just fix it. They fix games, and they also fix it in a way to sometimes keep the story going. I've talked about this before, trying to keep the life of it going. And so they do these plays like Booker not fouling out on 2 parent fouls, but they want that to be talking points. They was like, why was it? Because I thought after the first foul they didn't call on him, I thought, oh, maybe Booker has something to do with the end of this game. But my point is they do things on purpose. They do things purposeful to give you talking points the next day. I was in the Walmart in Greensboro a few weeks ago and it was all Aggied out. They shamed Devin too. Yeah, the 42. The 42 was definitely a kind of a tell. The block was nice he did on Ayton. That was a nice block. I mean, that was one of the better plays of the game. And of course, like PJ was saying on the K2, they put Giannis on there. They put one of them foreign-born players on there, but they put the woman on the special edition too. Candace Parker got put on one. Remember that too. So that's kind of a shaming too. That's definitely a part of the shaming. 90% chocolate and Dunkel. Shirts, warm-ups, and all. I should have grabbed a few shirts. I got to go back. Man, I might have to send you some lube, bro. Because I don't have any. I got like a varsity jacket. My friend, she stays down in Henderson. Like even going down there where she stays two hours from Greensboro. So whichever airport you go to is still about 2 hours away from her. So it's quite a trip where she lives. But she sent me a couple hats. But I don't have any gear. Like I don't think I ever had a sweatshirt, hoodie, none of that. Like when I went to A&T, I thought it was kind of like lame to buy that gear. Only gear I really had at A&T was my football gear, pretty much. And so I'm gonna have to hook up with you to get that easy gear. What I would like is a fitted A&T hat, I saw a snapback. They still want $30-some on eBay. So that's a little much for a snapback. And on the other hand, I can make my own hat. I can go to Lids and they'll make me an A&T hat. But yeah, we might have to keep that open. I'm gonna have to shoot you some money. Give me a hoodie or something. Because online they ain't even got any more. The hoodies is like 3X and they still want 70-80. Hey, David Sloan, you say the Suns in 6? I don't. Today convinced me. I still say I don't know if it's going to be Bucks in 6. I don't know if Bucks can win the next 2 games, but the Bucks, I would say that's who they want to win. They want the Bucks to win. It's definitely. They don't normally like new teams winning, and I've given the example of why Toronto won, but I don't see them letting another new team win. Not this year, at least. Now I've been wrong on some things. Some things I've been wrong, and some things I've been right. So I don't know, King. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's possible Bucks in 6, but it's gonna make good TV for the Suns to win the first game at home. So then it'll go boom, boom, boom. And with this boring of a series, they want 7 games. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 7, because they've got to be losing in the ratings. And I haven't checked the ratings for last week, but they've got to be losing in it. With these 2 teams, the casual fan doesn't care about Giannis. He ain't carrying the casual fan like Curry could. Curry could carry the casual fan. Most casual fans wants to see LeBron. Toronto was down 0-2 versus Milwaukee and won 4 straight. Milwaukee turned. That's true. Yep. And won 4 straight. So it could very easily turn into that being the scenario. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a scenario. But keep in mind, we make fun of the game so much. Keep in mind, they do things on purpose. So everybody keeps talking about the game. So the game keeps living. So keep that in mind, because that's something that we could be seeing as well into this. So just like Spurs and Detroit, that was boring. Very boring. Yeah, hey, Gray, AD still, that series, and remember, that one didn't go 7, which really surprised me that one didn't go 7, because but every year that the Spurs won it, the ratings were low. And that was the beginning of really the foreign player push. That was the beginning of it. It was the Spurs, Ginobili and Parker. They had the cat from France. They had a whole team of un-American people. So, and I would dare say, unless the brothers take a stand, it's going to be 50% foreign players within a matter of 20 to 25 years. It's going to be 50%. Now, is that fair to American players that grow up watching TV, grow up in these Americas? Is that fair for them? Because what you have to understand is that all the leagues around the world have the NBA's hand in their pocket, or funding them. Luka was cradled since he was 11, 12 years old in NBA camps. And that's how long they've been molding him. Just like the old Hollywood days, they would take these actresses and put them through everything. That's what Luka got. And probably Dirk. Dirk didn't play against the Dream Team by no accident. It wasn't an accident. He got to play against them twice. So it's definitely agenda. King says Bucks came down 0-2 versus Nets second round, lose game 5, game 6 and 7. You might be right. I had Bucks in 7 at first, but then that means the Bucks would win 5, lose game, and win game 7. That's how I'm kind of seeing it. Hey, James, thank you for joining me. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm kind of thinking that the Suns will win 1 at home, and then it'll go back to Milwaukee. They'll probably beat them, and then it'll go game 7. So that's that. To me, when you have 2 teams like this that nobody cares about, like look at hockey. Look how hockey got it out the way. They played 5 games and got it out the way. So keep that in mind too. But the game was boring for the most part. It was a boring, slow game. Became obvious. A lot of the shots. Now, if you look at who's benefiting from what system, Middleton is benefiting from Curry's system. That's pretty obvious. Hey, Mr. Lamborghini, thank you for joining. But that's what it looks like. It's Middleton is definitely benefiting off the system that was made for Curry. You can see some shots don't move. It hits the net, barely moves, and that's Curry's system. That's the most advanced system. But like I would tell you, the key play of the game was truly Paul. Paul threw the ball over. What was they down 2? It was down 2 or down 3, and Paul throws the ball over. He had 4 turnovers. That was the game right there, and he threw it away on purpose. Remember, he tried to go through 2 people, and some kind of way the ball went, and then Booker ended up fouling. But that was the game. Or maybe Booker ended up fouling was a different play a little later. But basically, that was the game. That play was the game when Paul turned it over late. And it looked on purpose. That's why it would have been interesting if Phoenix would have won and Paul got to do the shame walk. Tonight, Booker did the shame walk. Usually it's Paul doing the shame walk, the mad I lost walk. But you see how they inflate him. Paul couldn't miss the other night, couldn't make tonight, couldn't hit it. 3 turnovers in the first half, costly turnovers at costly times. So, hey, Valerie, thank you for joining me. Great. Paul took it for no reason. Booker had it going, and Paul wouldn't look in his direction. You can tell that the NBA would never let Paul win. No, absolutely not. He fell on the floor on purpose. Yeah, he fell on the floor. In one turnover, he ran off the court. He slid off the court so not to get back. But that final turnover was definitely on purpose. I ran that back and forth. It was definitely on purpose. And I'll tell you, my lack of covering it is not from their lack of not doing basket manipulation, but it's a lack of just interest. It's like, who cares? You can see why the players is getting help. These ain't stars. These is Giannis is the only one. But again, the casual fan don't really know him. So it's been this is boring. So why should I give it more publicity? This is boring. So it doesn't even deserve attention. It's so boring and lackluster in the play in the games. Hey, Lorenzo. What's going on, Lorenzo? Deer destroyed Chris Paul's house, State Farm. That's right. That's right. The Buck destroyed his house. Predictive programming. Yep. Someone, another person early in the tournament mentioned that's a possibility too. And that's a good catch. That is a very good catch on that. So I think it's some validity to it. This man, the point guard, yet in every crucial moment he's been in, he's folded. I don't know if people see, and that's this scripted bull. Yeah, boo. No doubt. As I'm saying, he's not getting all the publicity he gets from winning. It's not from winning. It ain't from winning. Still don't think it's rigged. They showed y'all in the commercial with Team Chris Paul with face. That's a good point. And he's what is it? He got more years than Rodgers has. His commercials, I think, has run longer than Rodgers' commercials. And so they ain't picking him because he winning. They ain't picking him because he winning. And I was surprised he didn't get the shame walk. Booker got the superstar treatment. He was supposed to be fouled out. Yeah. But see, that was on purpose. That's what I'm saying. I'm not falling for their publicity. They did that on purpose. They purposely let him foul twice and didn't call it for talking points. And it didn't really matter. Giannis got the tip on one, and the other one went out of bounds or something. So they still got the ball. So it was no advantage for him doing it. Now, when I saw the first foul, as I mentioned, I thought that was going to show him hitting the game winner. I'm like, why are they keeping him in? You don't call this foul. He must be part of the script. But the script was something to talk about. That's all. Just something to talk about. Oh, and some goof commented and said that Paul video I did, that Paul didn't jump up, come down, and jump up again. Come on, know the rules. 20 years of reffing, yeah, it's easy to see certain things, buddy. It's these certain things. The losing mascot of the NBA, he was giving deer headlights look for me. I mean, throwing away all three of the turnovers in the first half, you had to look at it as almost he point shaving. It was almost like he was point shaving. That's what it looked like to me. He was point shaving because all three turnovers, it looked like one he just threw behind him. He threw behind. He had people and he just kind of threw it behind his back behind him, and it's like who was this supposed to go to? And then one time he throws it away and says, "Oh, I should have shot it." He folds like origami. Ah, that's funny. Someone said Rogers would be Milwaukee wearing a green shirt, not from Green Bay. Funny. I find it hard to show interest in NBA when you see the rigging going on. I report on it, but again, it's like the interest of this jive is so low for this playoffs. It's like, and I know when they're trying to because they're aware of what I present. They're definitely aware. But see, I know when not to take their bait. I know when to do real reporting, and I know not to take their bait. And tonight, what they was trying to do is take bait, and I didn't take their bait. I'm not gonna give you more publicity on what you want people to look at. A play that didn't even matter. Booker's plays didn't even end up mattering. Bucks win, they'll be 2-1 final. Suns will be 0-3, which is 2-13 LA Cold, and possibly LeBron championship script. 2 in Miami, 1 in Cleveland, and 3 Lakers. That's a good point, homie. What's happening? Thanks for joining. Hey, Brisk. Saw a video mention that Kobe and Myles Garrett are the same person. Myles would have had to put on, Kobe would have had to put on a lot of weight to be Myles. And younger. A lot of weight and younger. Myles was younger. Kobe was got to be in his 40s if he was alive. So, what was he, 42? Do I need the number? Is the rigging so evident? It's like a soap opera. Of course it is. And it was even worse when you watched it in the 60s. Someone was asking me, like, did I remember? Oh, my chiropractor was asking me, do I remember basketball in the 60s? I absolutely do. Not only do I remember it, we were going to summer tournaments. I mean, that's how my stepdad was. He went to all that stuff. And so we was going to summer, semi-pro games every summer to my grade school. My grade school used to be old high school. So they had I played YBL in this place, but I remember when men played there. And so definitely, I told the story before about being behind Bill Russell, sitting with a barber. The barber was flaming his ass because Bill Russell hair is like Kevin Garnett's. He had them BB shots. And the barber's just like, I cut hair, and we laughing. And I couldn't have been, 69? I was 10. So I remember seeing games in the 60s. We went to high school games. I had family members playing. The same with in the 70s. Where I grew up, we almost had an ABA team moved to Kalamazoo. After the Suns lose in 6, all 3 of their finals appearances ended with them losing in 6. Yeah, because Jordan beat them in 6. I was in D.C. when they beat them. Miles out here serving up helmet head shots for free. I forget on my other channel, that video, I think I got like 20, 30,000 views for that, which was kind of funny. But it was both of them, and that seems scripted as well. Because in football equipment, I mean, that is the one way you could hurt somebody, but he didn't hit him with the hard part. He hit him with the open part. So you really just get hitting, around the molding of the bottom. So it's lessened compared if you turned it around and hit him with the hard part. It's less blow. So, it's a less of a blow. So, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot to say tonight. Game wasn't that interesting. It's been a pretty boring day. They laid my nephew to rest, so this is the closing of the chapter. And of course, I said yesterday we had to come back, so we weren't able to go. And so it's another closing of a chapter. My oldest son, who was probably the closest to him, he called me, and how he was kind of shaken because his brother didn't know him as well, just because of the difference in age. But this was his first cousin being first cousins, we were around them a lot when they were younger. So he got to know the cat. What I am saying is 666. Good point, Lorenzo. If America ever fails, it'll be an inside job. The dude who gets killed in Haiti, how do you think that's not an inside job? You've watched movies where just somebody that turns on you. You know, like Sadat, somebody gave them uniforms. You know, they got uniforms, so when they walk by him, they just blasted him. So it's the same thing. It had to be an inside job. And we already know that American was involved, but it was a totally American effort. Can't say that's got, like, all these African presidents around the world got CIA written all over it. I mean, but this one especially got CIA. I mean, if you think the CIA didn't have nothing to do with that killing, you gotta do better research. They were all about that. Same with Cuba. They got their hands in that. They got a base still in Cuba. Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba. So do you know how easy it is? Remember in Black Hawks Down, they showed you the dude riding the bike, then the helicopter comes and whisks him away. You don't think they do that in Cuba? Sneak over there, send their CIA operatives over there? Come on, NSA operatives, come on. What they doing in Cuba, they tried to do that in China. That was they were talking about the student protests, and China called U.S. bluff and sent their peoples in there. My mother has a friend that was actually there working in a hotel. She was actually there. American that worked in a Chinese hotel. And she talked about what she saw. So, yeah, definitely scripted. Suns lost to the Bulls, horn team. Now Bucks, another horn team. There you go. That's a good point. Ever heard of Agenda 21 or 30? No, I have not. Please share. Please share it, D. Still. Please share it. I mean, all these people want to say how great this country is and how bad other countries is, but this is the most bloodlust country ever. 4 years, 200 some year distance. Really, we part of the Queen of England to be. If you really look at it, we're the same as her. Most bloodlusting country. I mean, that's why we're a continuation of England, because England was the same way. I mean, all the Europeans, it was a bloodlust in Europe that they brought over here. So we can't be surprised when more blood is spilled, because that's always been their way. It's like Venezuela. All that dissent there, that's what they do. They try to take down anything positive going in that country that will push you back to them, to say democracy. That's what they do. And a lot of these conservatives ignore that. They ignore the history. And of course, you've been in the military, you pretty much backed them. You backed their butchery. In some instances, you butchered for them. And of course, war is war. But American war is probably the most dirty, unfair warfare. Who says warfare is fair? But I mean, they put people in Vietnam with no intention of really winning, just maintaining. Again, they weren't defeated in Vietnam, but they want you to take their bloodlust on for them. And they want the people at home to back their bloodlust. Please take a moment. Oh, thank you, Valerie. I think the CIA is responsible for that hotel down that way, the hotel with high-pitched sound waves and high frequency. Could be the one. It's that easy. It's fear down there. I would look at who wants to get that land and the insurance on that building and who rebuilds, because more than likely the people who rebuild benefited from it going down. I mean, that's what we see in America. All that is left of America is banality and self-delusion. Pretty much so. Pretty much so. I think the brother Dewan on Craig Facts says something interesting. It's like, a few years ago, as a father that killed his child because his child rode on his Nikes. And it's so sad that for some people, that's the only thing that makes them feel like a man. Like the world has beat these people down, beat our people down, beat people down so much where the only way they feel like they're worth anything is if they have a pair of tennis shoes that say something. And then, for my son's generation, my youngest son, it's a belt. So now it's got you wearing the shit where you show the belt. You tuck your shit in a certain way so your fucking belt show. And that's Elvis Presley shit. He was the one that really popularized the big buckles like that. And that's sad. But what Dewan basically said was, you know, if you feel like a man just because of the clothes you wear, that's sad. That's low self-esteem. Because basically it's the same thing as the emperor's clothes. I mean, these clothes may feel. Remember what they said in Tenet? She said, well, what did he tell him? What did Michael, the old James Bond, Michael something, whatever the old dude's name is, what did he tell Tenet? He said, if you got to play a billionaire, you can't be wearing Brooks Brothers suits. So the point is you have to present yourself in a certain kind of way. And the clothing, unless you are in a billionaire status, the clothing really don't mean nothing. That's the point of it. Unless you're playing the character of a billionaire, what you got don't really mean nothing. So, and that's what's sad though. Like I was saying, the story of this old chick I kicked it with for a minute. You know, they poor, and when her dad would get money, he'd take her mom out. He want to buy everybody drinks because this was the only time this dude could feel like a man. And despite it making his children not have food on the table, and the woman went on to say that they was buying eggs and being able to get bread. But you know, it was the only time in his poor life that this dude could feel like a man. So if it's your first, galactic research community. Okay, Valerie. Good. I like that galactic research community. How can you have a war on terrorism when war itself is terrorism? It is. Exactly. And you've been the queen has been the biggest terrorist on the history of mankind everywhere they've went. I mean, that's why when the Chinese finally, they had to put their asses out, burn their churches down. Like I checked this out, you know, they was talking about the indigenous in Canada, natives, however you want to call them, First Nation, how they are burning down Catholic churches. And then this is that same how they're trying to defend the critical race thing shit. Meredith Quinn, who wrote the Time Walking Papers, went exactly through that. He was taken, matter of fact, they took him from Oklahoma, they brought him out east somewhere. And the same kind of brutality put upon them. And they talk about it was no genocide, that it was bad policy. See, these are words to cover up the truth. It wasn't the policy. Jim Crow was voted on. Remember that. Said it was legal. So it was genocide of children because children is easier to kill and hide. And Meredith Quinn talks about that very thing where they had to stand up for hours. So torture, abuse. And he said if you didn't speak English in 2 weeks, they were killing children. These are in the Time Walking Papers. You had 2 weeks to learn English. You couldn't practice any of the old ways. So it was a genocide. Removing the children, that's what do you think that does? You don't think that was stress? You don't think that was world changing for the children? And this motherfucker say it was bad policy. So you're damn right. They blame them motherfuckers in them churches and the people behind the people in the churches. So that's why they burning that shit down, because they had their hand in it. They're going to lie and say, now this is what they want to tell you, that the churches was too broke to help the people. Churches and the state could get the people there, but once they was there ain't no money to help them, no health care, their cramped conditions. That's on purpose. Ain't that what they told you they did in the Holocaust? Took them out of the homes, put them in cramped conditions, made them work. I remember in 2006, they had belt buckles where you could spell your name on it. It would flash across the belt buckle. Yeah, I guess I did see that a few times. Matter of fact, you could also have it in your rims. Remember that? You could have it go like from one rim across the bottom of your car to the other rim, all the way around. You could have a little message going on your rims. And so this is why the people are mad and why they do blame the Catholic Church. And you got to hear propaganda and the defenders, because they don't want their history. They want their history of bloodshed to be forgotten. And you have to consider, again, this country is really part of the queen. There was never a real separation. That winning the Revolutionary War sounds good, but they never parted from them. When you beat somebody, you beat them all out of the whole continent. They didn't beat them out of Canada. How would they get Jamaica? You claiming all the other islands, but you gave them Jamaica. No, that's some bullshit. You notice the pound always stays higher than the dollar. You think that's an accident? It's cheaper to go get stuff in Australia. It takes you longer to get there than it is to get shit in England. Why is that? The pound is always higher than the dollar. If you watch the money. And so I'm not bitter. I'm joyful. But studying them does make you bitter. And you look at the reality. My brother gave me a book, and there's a lot of lies in the book, especially like if you look at, like, the book is basically written in the 16th century by a lot of the stuff of the Europeans. And the Europeans, when we know, if you go back to the Jewish faith people from the very beginning of time, you see books and studies about them ritually sacrificing people. That is something that has always been, at least with the Jewish branch of the Jewish faith people. And as I'm just starting the book, it made me wonder about when you see lynchings, like even the Emmett Till thing, that could have been a type of ritual murder and not just the fear. I mean, some of the lynchings was probably ritual based. Now I look back, and they weren't as many as they try to say, but they were probably ritual based. And so that's a way that it just made me wonder that. It was like, wow, this is something they've always done. And so when they write books, and as I said before, when you kill over 100 million people, you have to have a story to hide that, because eventually they know in years it's going to come up. So it sounds better to make one society. In this book, he didn't do a lot of research, but one thing he put interesting. He says Cortez had 200. Now this is where they got future help from the future, but there's something else there. So in 2 years, Cortez defeats Montezuma. 2 years, when in fact it took him 2 years to even meet. So some of that's a lie. But how did they get 200,000 people? They didn't have enough ships. They only took 2 or 3 ships his first attempt. Where did 200,000 people? How do you get an army of 200,000 people in 2 years? And they tried to say they brought people for Cuba. Do you know how many ships it would take to bring people from Cuba? 200,000. So it's another lie. That's not an easy thing. That would take probably 10 years. That would probably take 10 years to acquire an army. And again, people, the Aztecs were the lords. A lot of the people in these other lands didn't dig them. But it's just how you catch lies when you know history. And you want to bring in the information so you read it, but able to, use your discernment and say, oh, this is not real, and this is not real. There's no way they could get an army of 600,000 natives. There's no way. No way. No way that they pushed in enough to even get that many people. I mean, motherfuckers just come, and every land they get around, like, we hate them too, and everybody wants to go fight for these motherfuckers. And when we know the final assault on the city after they killed Montezuma II, all the Europeans get killed, but about 30 men. So wasn't no 600,000 there. So you see these lies. You're what? and so, like, even Venezuela, you go into looking at what was done when they poisoned the president, gave him cancer, when that country was strong as it ever been, and he had put their asses out. And that's what they don't like. They don't like these South American countries not being in turmoil. They like keeping them in turmoil because they won't divide and go off on their asses. And this is the same pattern since they've been here. They never want those countries to unite. They ride the true woman that started the civil rights movement. It was not Rosa Parks. It was a pregnant 15-year-old Claudine. Well, it was not only was she 15, she was 15. She was pregnant by a dude 30. So no, they didn't want that. Rosa Parks was a secretary, but she fit the agenda, being light-skinned, being light-skinned. That was part of the agenda too, is that she was light-skinned, and they placed her out front because she was light-skinned. And you seeing statues of her and shit. They got her house somewhere. What do you think about El Salvador adopting Bitcoin? I mean, this is the FBI in America took over. But they was always probably part of the dark web. They benefited from the dark web moving arms. The USA has been caught moving arms through the dark web. So they benefited from it. Hey, Rico, thanks for joining. So America definitely benefited from, the dark web as well. That's why the story of busting the dude makes no sense. Haiti, Cuba, South Africa. There you go, Greg. So they've always wanted a hand in the banking system. So they control it. So they controlled it from the very beginning. From the very beginning, they controlled it. Which doesn't surprise us. Doesn't surprise me. What's MLK duty as a Freemason? What was MLK's duty as a Freemason? Was to destroy the black neighborhoods, to make the indigenous neighborhoods feel that they had to go to white restaurants, go to the white malls, go to the white stores, go to the white tailors, go to the white bakers, go to the white butchers, go to European butchers. That's what MLK's role was. His daddy goes to Germany in the 30s, and he gets told the truth. That's why our king said, we're a stranger in our own lands, because his daddy knew the truth. That's where he adopted that shit. Their name was Michael. His daddy goes over in the 30s, and again, he's handled. But that was his main thing, was to convince us not to buy black, to buy European. That we didn't need to buy from each other. The thing, King was definitely bootleg. He was A5A, I think. Beryl in my eye. So yeah, that was his agenda. That was definitely his agenda, and nothing more. And nothing more. I mean, he spoke against the war. He spoke against later, but he had already done the damage, because he wasn't speaking against the Vietnam War until they cut his money off. Yeah, integration. There you go. I will lead you onto a burning house. That's what he did, Greg. He definitely did. So that was his job. Taking us down was his job. He didn't help us. And they built, you look at the statue they built him. They built the statue in white granite. You think that's by accident? Communist trained, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, communists is them peoples. The Jewish faith people invented communism. So they're behind communism in Russia. I mean, that's who runs Russia. That is their state. More than Israel, Russia is their state too. Lenin, Stalin, Trotsky, all them dudes was Jewish faith people. Bolsheviks was all Jewish faith people against the Christian Catholic, against the Catholic Tsar. That's who they defeated, the Catholic Tsar, the Catholic people. I mean, that's why when Germany goes into Russia, the first people they come up against is all Catholic faith, Ashkenazis. But that's all they were when they first went in there, was they fought them. They want to tell you it wasn't them fighting them, that they was just going in there butchering, but that's who they fought at first, was Jewish faith people. And that's who they fought once they went in there, the Bolsheviks. And I've shared this before. The goofy guy, 13th Son, said this, but I came across this before. Some of them letters about some of them Nazis that was fighting them, and they were saying they was fighting some weird looking beings over there. You can almost say kind of wicked demons, not daemons, the demon kind of looking beings. A lot of Russian mob guys got dual citizenships with Israel. Absolutely. So yeah, absolutely. German and Isabella is the only two people that really fought them. That's who Isabella put Inquisition. It wasn't really against the Moors. It was against them. Read the book, Isabella. Queen of Spain. Read that book. That's who it was against. And that's why a lot of them was conversos. You have people converting. Hey, Overstand Mocha. Hey, thank you. So you know, that's why they're stamped on the sacred ball game, on the continuous ball game. That's why they took that energy. They've controlled that energy since the 40s. Why is that? Why did they think they had to have basketball specifically? Specifically, they wanted to control basketball. Just as even though the 24-second clock came in like 49 or 50 season, it's 24 seconds. And they knew what they was doing. And they knew down the road who would take the game over, because the game was more natural for us. Kind of insane to remember my old history books in grade school. Mostly all the people I learned about were part of the Freemasonry. Yeah. I mean, why do you think they put the astronauts in front of that? The astronauts is all Freemason, all that fake stuff. Like, I saw a picture of a dude supposed to be space riding, and you can obviously tell it ain't no better than that Star Trek looking shit. You know, it's just all a lie. Even this recent shit, there's some illusion that we saw. It ain't nothing but an airplane. Remember, they've been had airplanes that can fly in space or fly high, and not quite in cold space, but, you know, atmospheric space. So what? Motherfuckers gonna pay millions of dollars just for a joyride? It's an amusement ride. It's an amusement ride. Who wants to go on an amusement ride? And what's gonna happen when the first people die in the amusement ride? Because you know that's what they're gonna do. I mean, they built them goddamn shuttles, and how many did they crash? They crashed 2 of them. So you don't think that if you can pay to do that little joyride, that amusement park in space? And that reminds me of Space Jam. Remember, if Michael Jordan lost, he was have to go be on the moon, and he was going to do a ride, you know, on the moon. He was going to be a amusement park ride on the moon. Remember that? The Rothschild funded war, of course. You know, they give Lenin 10 million. They gave Lenin 10. That's the interesting thing about the Trotsky. Even though the Trotsky show that was on Netflix, even though it was slanted, the good thing they showed is who backed them, who gave them money in France. And it was the Jewish faith people in France that was plotting against the Catholic Tsar and gave Trotsky and Lenin money. That's the ones that kept them afloat. And they want to keep the lie going so strong. And even to this day, they lie. They lie. And Trotsky talking in the movie talking about he gave the power to Lenin, because Trotsky is the one that set in motion and won the war against the Catholic. Even after the Tsar left, he defeated his army. And he said that the Russian people wouldn't accept a Jewish person running the country. Well, he was Jewish, and so was Stalin, and so was Lenin. So it was a lie. They still lying. So you see how the CRT shit still applies? Russia's still trying to lie that the Jewish faith people took over power after the Tsar left. They still tell you that lie, that they ain't in charge of China and they ain't in charge of Russia. They are. That's why, you know, I disagree with Zach Hubbard and all these motherfuckers that try to say the Jesuits. Look up who defeated the Catholic Church. Now, I know I say that the Moors defeated the old Roman Empire, which to a point they did, but they slightly existed too. And the old Roman Empire finally does get defeated. Who were the Jesuits? They get defeated by Napoleon. And as I said last night, Napoleon crowned himself. He didn't get crowned by the Pope. He grabbed that shit from the Pope's hand and put it, because he had defeated their army. So now if you're saying that the Jesuit army afterwards has come back, but they just lying. They lying. They know it, all of them. And whenever you hear that, I mean, Zach's my man, but he's agenda-based. Anytime he pushes that and all them push that, they're just the Jesuits. Jesuits ain't nothing but the army. They're just the army. As they are. So, and they, you know, it makes you wonder who they work for. Makes you wonder who they work for. So, It's got to be considered, Joe. But that's how we see. I'm watching the post game on Sports Center. Why is Michael Wilburn and Richard Jefferson in mass? But when Wilburn was next to Stephen A. Smith, he was not in the mass. Exactly. No, this is the thing. Remember in the beginning of the game, they were showing all the stars there, and Alex Rodriguez have his mask to here. Okay, if you looked at the benches during the game, you was looking at that first, second row, then people wasn't wearing masks up in there. You ain't got to wear a mask in Ohio. I mean, in Wisconsin. I just came from Wisconsin. You ain't wearing a mask nowhere there. Why would you wear it in there? But they made all the stars wear them when they showed them on TV. I was just in Wisconsin. What is this today? Shit, my days is mixed up. What is it? Wednesday, Thursday morning, Friday morning? I was just in Wisconsin a couple days ago. So we ain't wearing masks. We stopped and had dinner. So you telling me it's different than going to a restaurant and going in that stadium? So no, the mask shit is so goofy. So I know that's a lie. Well, that's why when I saw all the entertainers wearing them, I'm like, why are they wearing them? But then during the timeout, you saw behind the benches, the people wasn't wearing them. So it shows you more propaganda. Like it never made sense. Why would the coaches wear the shit and the players on the bench wear the shit, but the people running ain't wearing the shit? And you know what they did to high school people? They made them hoop. This state, they made them hoop with that shit on. They would let them lower to their, but you know, this child died like that. Running. She died. It was a runner that died wearing that stupid shit, doing that to our children. And that prolonged use because the child is in school 6-7 hours, wearing the mask on the bus, wearing the mask during school, and then wearing the mask on the way home. And that's 7-8 hours in that shit. What is that going to do to that generation of people? See, when they put things in line, they look at who this is going to kill. Again, America is the most efficient killers ever. So don't tell me that it could be worse in other countries. It's worse here, and it's always been worse here. We live in an illusion of freedom. They try to make you think that capitalism is the best shit in the world, and it ain't. It's an illusion. It's an illusion of freedom. And they just put a name on it, and they give you pretty words. And you want to say what I want back? I don't want reparations. I want my land back in the Boston area. We know the claim, we know where the land is, but it's worth so much money now, they would never want to do that. But that's what's only fair. We got the names, we know the locations. So that's what, I want. Now, is this country going to do that? I mean, I had one of my ancestors, wrong place at the wrong time, just killed for no reason. They mad at some other fucking native, so they just find any native and just murder them. And it'd be like, oops, wasn't him. And yet you got ABL just capping for them motherfuckers. He's a cake-ass motherfucker. He's a cake-ass nigga. He loves them. That dude loves them more than he loves himself. Don't want to tell their real history. Ignore their history. Greece is rioting after being told they have to take the vaccine. Good. Thursday morning. Thank you, Valerie. I'm old man. Thank you, Valerie. I don't blame them. Tear that shit down. I don't mean to stop you for what you was talking about, but I just had to mention that. I thought that was weird. Very weird. Yeah, very weird. It was. I caught that. You caught that too. I was like, why them motherfuckers back there on the game ain't wearing masks? Why are they wearing them? Why is everybody else wearing them? Didn't make sense. Didn't make sense at all. I am so clumsy. Can I do it? Yes, I did it. This water should be pretty good. My Sugarite water. This has been sitting for a couple days. I had messed my neck up sleeping on my brother's couch, and went to the chiropractor, and he like, wow, you're really out of sorts. But then I got acupuncture, and acupuncture can really take you deep. It's the one time where you can speak to inside of your body, but you also, I take this She Legit stuff. I take this stuff. She Legit. And it really does expand your awareness. And, you know, I had a couple things come in that was really interesting. But acupuncture really opens those kind of things up for you as well. So I must have, I think me switching my prayers to the directional prayers that I talk about every day, I think is kind of, she said, thank you. Yeah, exactly. Now, why don't natives like this? Why don't natives like this? Because this don't look like them. That's why they don't want that. Natives don't want it because that don't look like them. That looked like the people that was on the East Coast when they first got here. That's why natives don't like it. It had nothing to do with it being disrespectful. It don't look like them. That is why they don't want it. The same with the Cleveland thing. The Cleveland represents more of the looking like the people they found on the East Coast. That is why they don't like it. There you go, because it's us. Easy E used to do acupuncture. Yeah, I've been doing acupuncture. Yeah, it opens up the meridians. Yeah, and that is the way you can communicate to the world that's in your body, because your body, inside your body, is another world. I mean, when I say loving every minute of it and loving the minute and loving the second, there is so much going on for you just to function that you can be in touch with all that. I mean, if you don't think electricity and fire is in your body, you're wrong. I mean, this is a system that electricity, water, fire, all happen. There's constant movement inside of your body. That's why they want to pollute you with the air, the ground, the GMO foods. It's because of that. Chief Wahoo, there you go. Because they want to poison all this. They don't want you. Like somebody was saying this, and I thought this was interesting. She was like, cancer might really be fighting off this bullshit they putting inside of us. And so that's why they want to cut it off, cut it out of you, because it could be fighting this bullshit they put inside of us. And I had never thought about that. And that's a good possibility. That cancer is the thing that comes and kills what they putting in us. And when you don't fear death, then none of that, it doesn't matter. That's how they gave Easy AIDS. CIP. Rico, what's happening? One of them used to try to check Chief Z, but Chief Z wasn't trying to hear it. There you go. That's right. But that's why they don't like it. Who would hate the Fighting Sioux? That makes no sense. Why would you change the name of the Fighting Sioux? How is the Fighting Sioux saying warrior people is disrespectful? You see, they ain't trying to get rid of the Blackhawks. Why is that? Why aren't they trying to go after the Blackhawks? What's the difference? What's the difference? So, and I told you, I fell in love with this store in Lansing, Michigan. Oh my goodness, they had all this old stock. They actually had two. I don't really care for snapbacks. Sometimes I buy them. But when they had this one, I'm like, and they had a bunch of old stock hats. I was very impressed for a person that loves hats. And then they had fedoras. They had all the Kangos. Don't you know, my Kango I wore yesterday, that hat cost me 40-some bucks. I ain't even found it online for like 80. Like, damn, I thought they was high, but I've always known that Marshall's was the only place I ever bought affordable Kangos. And that's because they was trying to compete with the store next door to them. So they were selling that kind of stuff. But I was very impressed with this store. Lansing Athletics. No, Lansing something. I got to give them a call, see if they'll put their stuff on. Flat Earth or spinning ball. I mean, what does it matter? I'll say this. You really got to, that's not a good question, really, because for me, I can live both. So if you, I mean, so that's really not the right question to ask. It can be both. It can be both. So it just depends on where you coming from in it. So that's kind of a loaded question. So in general, it's more of a spear kind of, not really a spear, more of an oblong kind of thing. But also the flat plane can exist as well. So he could have been the mascot for the Redskins. If it's the snapback, I get it. Mostly fitted though. Yeah, yeah, but I end up coming out of that place with 5. Well, I bought one from Lids, but I came out of there with 3. I came out of there with 4 hats. I bought 5 hats while I was in Michigan. I ain't buy no shirts or nothing. It was like, these hats is different, so I bought them. So yeah, Big L, I can get into flat plane, and I can get into spherical plane too. So it just depends. It just depends. But for mostly, it's this, what you see and what most people are on is kind of the oblong thing. That's what most of this kind of thing is. So, but if we was to talk, you know, I could, and that's where you was coming from, then I could put myself there to be able to hear you. So don't be turned off because I say that it could be either. And the thing about this is what you have to understand about our planet. If our planet came into a situation where it had to be flat, it could do it. And I mean flat more like the Star Trek cube. If there was some kind of area of whatever and the planet had to cube up, it could do it. And it would do it very easily. I mean, we could change axis, wouldn't kill everybody. We would hardly notice, other than the cycles would be different. But we would still survive even if it did that. And we know it's going to happen, and we know it's happened before. University of Stanford used to be called Indians. Sure did. Sure did. You saying they gave EZE through direct acupuncture needles. Huh. When I was in New Orleans, I had to get one of those Pelicans joints. There you go. Yeah, there you go, Mark. It's both. But what makes sense to me? Well, it makes sense more to me. What is more experienced is the spherical kind of experience. Now, the other part of that is, see, and that's kind of weird because one fact is the building blocks of this earth is squared. I mean, if you go into all mountains, you go into all mountains, the base building of mountains is square. And that's just how rock mostly forms. So right there, why does the rock form in squares, but we're supposed to be on a sphere? So that's a kind of contradiction. So if the building block is square, but they go so hard to put squares around us. Again, I'm sitting in a square room. This phone is pretty much square, triangle, or rectangle. All doorways is, you know, the doorway is the same as a casket. It's an 8-sided square. So if you look at the reality on how we're living, everything is squared around you. So it's not what makes sense. It's what I can experience. So I can experience both. Is that Clinton Portis jersey? Yeah, that is Rico. It's more Clinton Portis. You know, Adrian Peterson wore it too. What do I think about Sherman? It's a shame ritual. Shame ritual for him. But yeah, it's an old Portis jersey because that's why I like it, because it still says Redskins right here. Haven't. So, but yeah, Big L. So I can't say either makes sense. It's just you have to be able to live in both, or being able to at least experience to really understand it. No, there's no such thing as gravity. No, that's bullshit. There's no gravity. Like when you go into the ethers, definitely the czar, there's no gravity there. When you dream, gravity doesn't exist. So how come you can go in all these other realms where gravity don't exist, but then you get in this and gravity is supposed to be existent? Yeah, gravity is a lie. Gravity is a lie. They tell you that the moons is held together by gravity. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. In cold space, you know. So no, gravity don't exist. That's one of the biggest lies they've ever told. Well, what makes it come down when it goes up? It ain't gravity. Gravity makes no sense. Gravity makes no sense. If you can daydream, which is really a light trance, and whatever experiences you have, it ain't gonna be with gravity. So yeah. And remember in the Matrix, when he goes out of the Matrix, which it shows you it's supposed to be the Matrix all the time. Because when Neo is able to step out, and this is my son, my 18-year-old, but it's the point. When Neo's able to step out of the Matrix, it shows you he was really still in the Matrix because he still had the same abilities. So there's no gravity. That's what some OGs told me from Cali that actually knew Eazy-E was Jerry Heller's doctor, who also had Mossad agents as friends. I am from Jersey too. Oh, okay, bet. The call was suspect, and it sounded like she was making it up as she was going. And she said, don't kill him. It was like, even though he's going off, she had passion. First, she said he was beating up the uncle. Well, he's rationally trying to fight him. How do you try to fight somebody? Phoenix versus the Bucks moon. There you go. Gravity can't even hold a balloon and a feather. I mean, like, look at, what is it? Acorn, the trees that, what's that? Oak trees, and the way that they can just, they don't need no wind or nothing. They can just feather down and find where they need to go. You know, they can just helicopter down. So it ain't got nothing to do with gravity. So the gravity exists when just the trees was here. You think the trees was tripping on that shit? Trees just knew if they dropped their shit that it would go and more trees would grow. So they didn't sit there and say, you know, trees, this gravity is why our acorns will just go across the country. Yeah, that's made up shit. No gravity, just density and buoyancy. Good one. And pressure. Good possibilities. Good possibility. Good possibility, Mark. Thank you for adding. So yeah, that shit don't exist like they try to say. I mean, that's why you can't believe. See, that's where, and it's not believe. I don't believe in anything, but it's like everything they tell you. These is the biggest murderers. These is murderers telling you shit. You're supposed to believe these murderers scientists, and they've done nothing but lies since 1776. They ain't been able to do nothing but lie about everything. So how can you believe any of their science? Like I was saying, my cousin's husband, he worships these European science. That's the factor. He don't even look at this, these same Europeans teaching you this shit. So how you believe that shit? And I mean believe from just hearing this and saying that's a possibility. These are same murderers trying to teach you some shit. These are same murderers that put this poison in your food, poison in your water. I mean, like Flint. Flint was the easy solution. And I know I got mad at the dude saying that he could do a switch. But Flint, all they had to do is treat the pipes. That's pretty much all they had to do, is buy the chemicals, treat the pipes to accept the type of water was going to be coming. That was the easy solution. And they skipped that. And they experimented on them people. It was allowed. This was government allowed. So can we, when you have government allowed, our government locked up other Americans in World War II. They locked up Americans. They wasn't Japanese people. They was Americans they locked up. So that's how cold these mugs are. Hey. Then, of course, we know with the crime bill under your president now, we have the most people in crime in the world. Most people in prison, excuse me. How is that? How is that the most population is melanated people? The biggest population in prison is melanated people. You think it's by far. And you know what they tell you? Well, you know, more Europeans get killed by the police than anybody else. I don't know if I believe, if I can even ingest that. I don't know if I could even think that it's a possibility. Hey, homie, believe has a lie in the middle of it. There you go. Lie and steal. They did Flint dirty. Exactly. Who believes murderers and liars? That's it. You got an elf that creates Moderna, then turn around, they get a contract. That's called stock swindling. That's you already know it's coming down the pipe. Most of the time you go to jail for that kind of shit. Insider trading. They ain't put that little elf. But did you notice how they put the little elf off? And then this new thing comes out and they bring the little elf back on. Isn't that interesting? He hides when his lies get shown. But then they talk about the new fear program. And that's all it is a fear program. It's a fear program. And how can I say this tactfully? It was like when I was in Michigan, one person said she had to drip. But this person wears 400 and some pounds. She's about 5'6". So she says how sick she was. But my brother and I are looking at her like, you had a lot of inflammation. This person is 400 and some pounds at 5'6". So when she got the drip, what did you think was going to happen to you when you get sick? You are unhealthy just looking at you. You're unhealthy. What does space mean? That's a good point, because really you can create space yourself when you meditate. So when you go into the ethers, you go into the czar, that's a type of space. So that's like, you can even go into yourself, and that's a type of space. And so there's really no, it's like I told this before. I was so overconfident that I really thought I could just go through space and go to Jupiter. And the reality is, Jupiter is so big that I'm dust there. And so that's not even the proper way you can approach something like that. So that taught me that, oh, that's a lie. Because when I approached it that way, it was like, what this thing is, there's no way from this consciousness of awareness I could even approach something like that. I would be just dust. So it definitely wasn't space that you could approach this thing. Definitely wasn't space. And really, if you looked at what hell would be cold. And the one place that we are taught is cold is space. So would space be hell? And then why is space and ships of the ocean called the same thing? Why do they use the same terminology on boats as they use in space? It's the same terminology in most mysticisms. Oh, definitely. Yeah, Mark, that's a lie. We are out. The melanated people outnumber Europeans. I think we probably always have. Now, as I've talked about the White League and the red shirts, they put, the Klan was even based on communism, because what they were able to do was mobilize small groups of people. And so when small groups of people organized, it was easy to bring these small groups together for a small force. And that's where the Klan became successful. And that was communism. I entered space realm when I tried brownie edible. Yeah. Yeah, you can. But so what they call space would be more hell, because a cold environment. Is it something that they are promoting, an Asian player that can pitch and hit home runs? Yeah, exactly. But that's the same thing. It's like they don't like all the South American brothers dominating, because it ain't enough Europeans dominating. Mike Trout ain't gonna never win nothing. He just ain't a type of player that's gonna make your team win. He gonna have good stats, but he ain't gonna make your team win. Well, they got to script it like that at least. And so they want to do anything not to have the melanated people from South America dominate. So they starting to bring them over. Dreams. Yeah, dreams. I've explained that many times. You have a dream screen. That's where the TV has to come from. You have a dream screen. It's above your feet. Where you dream every night is above your feet. And it's kind of an oblong shape. It's about, I say that's about 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet. 3.5 feet by maybe 3 feet. And that's where our dreams go to. So that's a whole realm. That's actually a whole realm, a dream realm. So if I can see it, there's others that can go to that realm and look in people's dreams. So I don't know if that's how they set it up, but that's where we dream. If you take because of the waters above and below, and that's a good possibility. Like my son and I were having a conversation about going to Middle Earth, and you can't. It's like they tried to fool it in Aquaman, because they can't go. They've tried to go. That's one place they can't go. They can't go deep ocean, and that's why some say Marduk is in deep ocean. They can't go into the Middle Earth because there's a sun in the middle of the planet too, and they can't get to it because it's got an ocean. You know, the Russians is the ones that tried to see how deep they went. And that fucked them up, because the more deeper they drilled, the more water they came into. So Stephen A. Piff apologizes to one of them Asians. Exactly. He ain't never apologized to brothers. Hey, Tiger Strong. Hey, Jack. The Ashanti dude sucked in the home run derby. Went 0 for 2 in the All-Star game, and they showed and talked like he's the next Babe Ruth. But they gave him the winning pitcher. He won the game, though. He pitched 1 inning. Last. Is the moon a rock? You know, that's interesting. I'm a Cancer. So this is the problem with the moon. We only see one side of it. We only see one side of it. And so if there's something that for all mankind, it looked the same, it has to be artificial. It's no way that we all in this world would see something that looked the same no matter where you're at. Now, I know they do time-lapse photography, but it looks the same. How is it the exact, if this thing is turning and we turning, how is it that we only see one side of it as we turn? And that's how all anybody ever saw. So no, it has to be something artificial. It has to be. Nothing is hotter than the Earth's core. There you go. They are milking the Asian hate propaganda. Of course, of course. But they're the ones that put the Asians in camps. They put American Asians in camps. So don't forget that. There was no laws for them then. I guess black folks was like, at least you didn't put us in the camps again. And so, and see, what they don't like is they don't want to call Jim Crow slavery. That's what they don't like, because that's too recent history. The black slavery they talk about didn't end until the 60s. Did not end until the 60s. Anybody can look that up. You don't know, I see it. Oh, of course, they got it where you can't see it. They hide it. So it's just, it appears very artificial. And again, I know that there's more. They've got artificial sun up there. As I mentioned before, yesterday might have been the first time the thing they call the real sun I saw. They say they found nobody who could prove to be a Japanese spies in those camps. Well, the thing, homie, is they wasn't Japanese, it was Americans. They put Americans in the camps. So it wasn't, they put Americans. They put American citizens in camps. So, and they gave them money for it. As I said, slavery started during Jim Crow. That's when slavery started, in the late 1890s. That's when we see massive amount of slavery. Because what did they say? You could be a slave if you lock people up. So as many people's locked up now, they locked up more then. You're a jaguar too. I follow the Mayan cross analogy. It's more detailed than the cancer crab dynamic. There you go. I seen video where it's really plasma and has reflection of the larger Earth. A map was much more lands. Oh, Mark, interesting. They really, Shane Booker, you right. Bucks win the series. I think so too. So what was the slavery they was talking about during the Civil War if it started in the late 1890s? We own land down south. It was more melanated people on land down south than up north. The slavery, if it was slavery, it was in the north. They had Irish slaves, no doubt. But they don't want to call Irish slaves slaves. They want to call it indentured servitude when it was slavery. Some of them Germans were slaves. They put all their criminals over here. More criminals came to America than went to Australia. So those was the slaves. Poor white trash. Watch Gone with the Wind. What'd she say? Don't talk to them. They poor white trash. That was the slaves, was the poor white people. But melanated people own land all through the South. Melanated people went to war with them from the very beginning. So why did we go to war with them from the very beginning if we was all slaves? And then they didn't have melanated people fight for them until what is glory, 1862, 1863? And a couple of my relatives fought. One fought for the 54th Massachusetts, and his name is up there in the Shaw Memorial in Boston. The other, my third great grandfather, he fought for the Ohio Black Regiment. But from the very beginning, black folks fought with the South. So how is that? So that bullshit they tell you that was all lies. It was about them Jewish people, the Jewish faith people getting those lands. They were pushed out of the lands in the South. And that's all that was about. And who they put in charge? The poor white trash. This is who they put in charge. That is why they hate. Then they put them in charge in the 1890s. And they changed the law. They changed the laws where you could be for walk-in vagrancies, and then you could work for them for free. They put you in jail, so you work for them for free. So that, and it didn't end until the 60s. Keep that in mind. Slavery did not end until the 60s. You can find people in the 1960s in my lifetime that was still under slavery in the South. I look at my ex-wife. My ex-wife lived on a plantation in the 1980s. 1970s, her family was still living in slave-like status in the 1980s. In North Carolina, my ex-wife, it was a three-room slave house. It had 2 bedrooms and it had a kitchen, no running water. And this is in 1981 when I first went down there, probably the summer '81. And she was very hesitant and very nervous about taking me down there. So her mother was still living in slavery conditions. She still lived on a plantation. She still worked for the person that owned the land. She didn't own that house. Her dad had worked for them. Slavery. There you go, the Slavs. So look it up. But it wasn't just her. It was like her whole family was living like that. It was like you took this dirt road and you went to her aunt's house. They had a little bigger slave house. And then you go further back was her family house. And shit, she had 4 or 5 brothers and sisters. So, I mean, slavery lasted longer than what they want to tell you. The real slavery. As I said before, my 5th great grandmother is Rachel Brewer. She's darker than this man on this hat. Now my 5th great grandfather was probably my complexion, maybe a little browner. They taking pictures together. There's a picture of her and there's a picture of him from 1848 in Mississippi. Now you tell me, how does a person supposedly look like that, had enough money, and they're allowed to take a picture if there's slavery going on all around them in 1848? Explain that to me. If there was that bad of slavery, how is this woman able to take a picture? So it's a lot of bullshit they want to tell. Do you think they'll wait till certain generations wipe out before they'll revise history? They're trying to do it now. Here in Mississippi, we didn't end slavery until 2013. There you go. There you go. Lorenzo, that's probably, I can see that being down south, because her mother, because like she moved off that plantation and she moved on to another one, got a little better house until my ex-wife bought her a place. So that was shit. Because she moved on to the tobacco plantation, her mama did. And my son was born in '89. So her mama was still living on the plantation in '89, '90. Still living on the plantation. Ellis Island's where they brought so-called slaves. Well, I mean, look at the ships. You can't find any ships that they brought significant amount of people from Africa. Now, Columbus he tried to take 20, then number 5 lived. And you can see that in the Isabella painting. You can see people that he brought. And they brought a lot of people from the islands to the Americas. Matter of fact, so much so, they started taking part of my people out of North Carolina, taking them to the islands. Because once they killed all them people in the islands, enslaved and emptied them, they had always snatched people off the coast. But that's when they started slaving hard and taking people in the islands. And this is still in the 1700s. So my folks still have 100 acres of land here in Alabama, but they stole 1,000 acres from us, still Choctaw, Alabama, Black Creek in my language. Well, that's what I look at my father's grandfather. His father, my great-grandfather. So my 5th great-grandfather, so my great-grandfather's father, he had to pay he had to give up 100 acres to marry my great-grandmother. But yet, by the 1950s, he's moving to Chicago, and he's moving my grandfather to Michigan. So, some kind of terror. What would make him, because he owned his land. He wasn't a sharecropper. He owned his land. And as I told the story before, my father told me in the last few months, is my great-great-grandfather was pissed. He died in '58, so he died before I was born. But he was pissed because the cotton gin, they would gin your shit for free, but they kept the seeds. And my great grandfather was like, fuck them. I ain't giving them my seeds. Just because you gin it out, you don't get to keep my seeds. He thought that was wrong. Be mad at her elders. There you go. What other bullshit can you expose? Be mad at our elders. They got the bullshit ark as a fixture in Kentucky, but I am not a slave ship site. There you go. It was suppressed, supposed to end in 95, but the facts didn't send out. So they had to go 18 more years till they officially ended. Embarrassing. Exactly. You can look at the laws. The laws of that kept that thing going, that servitude going. So yeah, that's the lie. But that's when it really kicked in through the Jim Crow. Because it gave the poor white trash, they put the poor white trash in charge through the White League. And that's who acted like communists. If you look at the Jim Crow South, that's a communist way they did it. Because again, they started in small cells, and the cells supported each other. So if something happened, they was able to put a fairly large coordinated force together to fight against the melanated people. And the way they sharecropped us, we was too far apart to really get that big connection to try to support each other like that. So that's how, if you look at it, them people was communist acting people under the guise of diplomacy that's supposed to be in America, but they act like communism in their control. If you look at how they controlled the South. And again, it was for a lot of them Jewish faith people to get their hands on these lands in the South. And you can look at the slavery around that all around the world from the time that they had their hands in slavery, all around the world. My grandmother and all the elders in my family lived to a 98 to 112, except my mother, who didn't eat from the land. The last grandmother, 98, still thinking of moving like she's 70. There you go. Well, my great grandfather died in 91, but his wife died in her 80s. And then my grandmother lived to be 91, so my mother 80. And we just, we just drove back from Michigan. She 80 years old. We went there and came back. Slave talk whack. There you go, Big L. It is. Slave talk is whack. And so this is the thing. It's like, how do you believe anything that these Europeans talk about? That's my point. Anything about their laws, anything that these Europeans come up with, you can't believe them. They are the big I mean, what did Elijah Muhammad say? They are the biggest murderers ever in the history of man. They are the biggest liars in the history of man. They are the biggest slavers in the history of man. What do I think about crystal skulls? I mean, I deal with crystal energies. But I'll tell you this, they can't make them. Not the way those are made. There was no CNC machines. That's why, like the first time a few years ago when the time crystals came out, Sly asked me about time crystals. And the oldest time crystal stories that I've ever heard about was when you had all the skulls together. Because in South America, there were 13 skulls. You put one in the middle, you circle all the rest of the skulls. This was the way to create a time crystal, which is nothing but having realities repeat. That's basically what a time crystal can do, is it can repeat with its own energy. So it can give you a reality, and at the same time in that reality have its own energy enough to support that reality. And that's what they want their AI to do, and their AI can't do it. And so the thing about crystals is, so say a crystal was taken off planet and taken somewhere else. All crystals are connected in a way, but skull crystals are technically all one crystal, if you break down how the magic works. And so all of them are like telephones to each other, if that's easier for people to understand. And so you could take this telephone off the earth and put it somewhere else, and all of a sudden you had communication where it went. Or the skull could travel by itself, is another possibility. So they don't know where they come from. It's a dude named Hans. Oh, what is his name? He claims he's a Mayan. I can't think of his full name. The book is either here in my bedroom, but he shows where he supposedly sees one, and he offers it. It's funny. He offers it a ball, and the European that owns it apparently wants to be in the shot because before he gives it to him. But that's what Hans, he offers it a ball, which I found interesting. Crystals hold memory, of course. That's why Lemurian crystals. I sent a friend a Lemurian crystal. Uh, the idea of Lemurian crystals is as Lemuria was being destroyed, kind of like the Superman thing. They were able to encode these crystals with this kind of memory. And so when you find the true ones, if you rub the crystal, you could open up some of those memories for you. So, and not only do they crystals hold memory, you know, supposedly if this thing is moving around, it's been exposed to all this different kind of movement in the universe. If this thing is moving in the universe like that, that's a possibility as well. It's been exposed to all these different ways. And like even if you study the constellations, they move in the same kind of matter. If you study the planets move like they're on some type of string. Like the moon moves on the same string, it's just closer. But if you look at the planets, they are all on the same line. Now, what is the possibilities of that? If you're a true astronomer, you've got to see that the same line that the sun runs on, the planets run on that same line. So the main fundamental teaching of the European is to submit and follow order. Look at the financial service industry for the last 100 years. You're taught to believe you can't do nothing on your own. Yeah, pretty much. See, this is the thing. It's so funny is they put this says that silver and gold is all that you're supposed to be able to settle debt with. And then that's not good enough. They want to create dead debt. And so they bring up this fake money that has no real value when silver and gold has value. And they passed a law with Roosevelt that forced you. They looked at gold like it was crack. If they thought you had gold in safety deposit boxes, they was raiding your safety deposit boxes. If they thought you was hoarding gold in your house, they kicking in your door looking for that gold. They would kick in your doors and to see if you was hiding gold like it was crack. So you see how they was in the 80s and 90s kicking in doors for crack? Roosevelt's people was doing. Roosevelt is a Jewish faith person. Don't believe the other bullshit. And Roosevelt's is part of them Rothschilds. Jewish faith people. But they were kicking in your doors to take your gold, force it, and then give you an IOU of some worthless ass paper that's affected mostly by inflation. Hey, Topo. Water has memory. Of course, water has memory. Of course, water has memory. Of course. I mean, when I treat my water with this sugarite, the water appreciates it. The rocks appreciate it because it's in their natural state and they get to do what they're made to do, help humans. So the rocks understand that the water is pure because unless you have a well, if you buying any kind of bottled water, even filtered water to some extent, filtered water is like, it's not a bad idea to get filtered water because you're getting filtered water from pipes though, but it's filtered from the source. But you're never getting spring water like it says because they put the shit in the truck most of the time. Chippewa water might be one of the few exceptions where they bottle as source. But still, so Chippewa water that I get here, and you ain't got to buy Chippewa brand. You can buy the Cub Food brand. It's still Chippewa water. But it's one of the few waters that you can get from the source. Most of the time, water go in the truck. Like that Nestle water they stealing from Michigan, that water is pumped into a truck. So once it goes into a truck, it can't be spring water anymore. They promote mutual funds, but if you had all your capital in mutual funds from 06 to 42, you would zero or less returns. Water is God. Be water. Well, part of my prayer is talking about the primal waters, which look more like oil. Like if you were during the primal times, the water looks more like what they call oil. And But that's part of how I do my prayers. I become the primal man being born out of the primal waters, and I'm all black. I go into all black type of goo and I come out. And then when I go into the fire dimension, I automatically light on fire. So to be the primal man is to be dipped in the primal waters. And it looks more like what they call oil. So, well, I'll give the divination. We're on 13 platoons, 0 cartoons, 8 toon, 11 Uno, and I believe we're on 7 kin, 8 kin. And 8 kin is Lamont. Here's the Mayan fractal for those of you that are into fractals. Lamont is star harmony, the octave, intuitive realization of pattern of higher awareness, life, love, starseed. The energy is out of the south, and that's going into tomorrow. So if tomorrow you need a little push, the push is going to come from the south. This is one of my favorite cards because it shows them on the continuous ball game. You see that symbol there, that I? That is referring to the continuous ball game created by the hero twins. So, oops. In this card, we see the rabbit, the serpent having a match on the sacred ball court was played. The rabbit represents the body and the power of the senses, and the serpent represents the mind, the capacity for reflection. The court is the human body, and the game represents the challenge of life. The card represents the tension between enjoying life by following your instincts, senses, and material pleasures versus looking for the development of awareness. If the rabbit wins and the serpent loses, we lose because of the dominant of the senses result in the sacrifice of the higher awareness. On the other hand, if the serpent wins and the rabbit loses, we will fail as well because our quest for higher awareness will kill our joy for life. This card tells us that we need to take care of the balance between the two aspects of our existence, joy and awareness. The rabbit teaches that if you forget the joy and pleasure of life, you will be wasting something precious, enjoyment of one life that will have in eternity. But if you surrender to the quest for pleasure and forget the development of awareness, you will lose your soul, which is precious as well. The key to success, of course, has to do with balancing and honoring both sides. So those that can use that, I give freely. I got to get me a Mayan calendar. This app, man, is I think it's just called the Mayan calendar, the app, and it'll convert even when you are born. It can be converted. Why do they have Jimmy Butler and Bam? They initiated Bam. I'm thinking Jimmy Butler might be Bam's handler. But they're definitely under initiation, under Disney though, still. Under Disney too. And remember, Disney is in Orlando. They both playing in Florida. That's kind of the connection there. It was like, remember Jordan? Chris Paul had big-ass Jordan, 7-foot Jordan wearing a dress and having the Farrah faucet. Water's the biggest thing on earth. There it is. There's nowhere it doesn't reach. Ballet. Interesting, ballet. It is. But it's a thing they try to poison. And it's a thing they fear because it's certain parts they can't fuck with. They have to, when Aquaman, when they have truces and shit, that's how they have to do when they try to fuck with that deep ocean shit. They got to fuck with people so if they can go down there. So it ain't like they can just launch shit down there. They know. It's like when Big L was asking, is it flat, plane, or spherical? When you get into, how do I want to put this where people understand? Okay, so, all right. So if you get into the fates and you get into how this reality is, the reality doesn't like being wrong. And that's Matrix-like. And so it is always adjusting. It is always adjusting. As I've said before, you go back in time and he'll kill Hitler, it's something else that will come. And so you can't stop it. So you going back in time, the butterfly effect is some bullshit. It won't stop anything. But my point is the same way with fate and our realities. So this reality, the realness of it, partial realness sometimes, but it's a lot of illusion. I guess is the best relatable way. Is just a lot of illusion to what we see. Now, some of it is real, but a lot of it is under illusion, and so that's where it appears matrix-like, it appears machine-like, and so when I say it doesn't mean nothing, not a thing, that's what I'm kind of saying. It's like this thing doesn't appear real, and I mean, it's a real type of thing. It's a lot of illusion as well. Now, it doesn't contradict what I was saying last night about people talk about some of their experience and some of the history they look up, and me being able to see holes in the story. It's a little different than that. But as this thing runs, and it's like I was talking about last night, how can I pull into a restaurant and it's 80 some parking spaces and all of them is full, but I go into the restaurant, it ain't 80 people in the restaurant. There's nowhere else for these people to walk. Where did these 80 cars come from? And really, if I didn't drive by and as I'm driving, look inside, I would have thought this place was packed. I was already discouraged and about to pull off. But it was only one way to get in and get out. So I had to kind of drive around. I'm looking in the restaurant, there's nobody there. But where are all these freaking cars? And then I talk about the funky man. I passed this funky man. He's coming out when I'm going in. And then I get my food. When I'm leaving, funky man is back in line. So how is that real? That seemed like some type of mistake. So franchises aren't meant to win titles. It'd be good for CP3. They win the title, but I don't see it happening. Their chances of winning is like the chance of the Detroit winning. Detroit would never win a Super Bowl. Define Confurious. I'm not a librarian. I'm not going to define anything. So I don't know. You define it for me. You define it for me. You go ahead and define it for me. And my battery is kind of going anyway. I'm feeling like clicking off. I'm kind of a little tired. I'm definitely a little tired. So I think the Bucks win Game 7 in Phoenix. Remember, Mike Bollinger is from Arizona. Holbrook, Arizona. That's a good point. I think someone else that brought that up. So I think definitely the Bucks are gonna win. They've been showing Jabbar at the game today. Jabbar couldn't wait to get out of Milwaukee. He could not wait to get out of Milwaukee. YouTube. Thank you. So as I end every night, or on my new habit is I read more. I do give this time walking information out. I give more to everybody. And I'm going to say this. I don't hate any European. Show me cured water. Well, you can treat it with sugar. You can treat it with the silver. But you can make it your own. Mora, it all starts with a gentle sadness. They came from their original homeland. They knew that they had an exact number of years and days before they would disappear off the earth as a culture and a lifestyle. But the civilization would build to a gentle love. They lived in the Creator's day and knew how to separate cycles in the great serpent. And as the Mayan would say, I am another yourself. I replicate you, big bro. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that somebody appreciates it. Sorry I couldn't go a little further. I'm getting a little tired. And I had to get up a little early, and my body's still catching up, but I'm getting there. So we'll see if I'll be on tomorrow. I'm thinking probably. Yeah, tomorrow's a Thursday right now, right? So yeah. So, well, thank you all for joining. Till we meet again.